Okay, so what happens when you've got a problem? The second crust I rolled out, I wasn't as careful because I wasn't filming it. So I have a few problems here. So I take a piece of the scrap and put a little water. I would use water, that's what I use instead of milk. And then, just like I was working with clay, you know, you learn to piece when you do clay. And so then I just kind of put this on there and smooth it together, and pretty soon you don't know there was a piece added to that, and trim it off. Like I'm going to trim the whole rest of it, and you can see that it is in fact quite undetectable. So that's what you do when you have areas that aren't as deep as you want them. You can do a small one like this where I put some water on there, patched it up a little bit. And depending on what you like, you know, I could take this and cut it off like I did in the other one, but I could also roll it under and have a thicker area there. I like crust, so I like to have a thicker round part there. So I'm just going to do that with this particular pie crust. Take that and double it under, and then when I go back and do this to it, it'll be nice and thick. And a lot of people will come and eat my pie, and then they'll just throw that part away, and it makes me weep inside because I love crust. I'm like, give it to me. I love crust. So we're going to patch this in also. And given, you know, that I just did that, I don't have to double anything under because it is already a thicker piece. That's not very thick, but that's all right. This is getting back to the thicker. And so how are we doing here? I think we're good. I think that whole pie crust, see, now as I look at that from another direction, I took my thumbs and I worked on that a bit more on the inside. And so it's a little funny looking, but you put your rhubarb in there and your custard, or as we've been doing our pumpkin pie. It doesn't leak, it's just great. Okay, so that's what you do when you want to make it thicker, want to patch an area up. Okay. I decided to make 2 deep dish 9-inch pies for rhubarb when I get back, and then this smaller one, it's just a basic 8-inch, and I decided to make a turnover. Now I could have taken that crust and made a deep dish and made an apple pie and put that smaller crust on top, but I just want to be different. So I'm going to make this turnover, which is like making a double crust pie, sort of, just for the heck of it. So I've got this pan here with, or this stainless steel bowl with pieces of apple cut pretty small. Okay, so I'm taking half an apple and just cutting it. I don't have to demonstrate that to you. But what kind of apples to use, I don't know. I really don't. I keep telling myself I've got to Google that and find out which apple's best. Presently, I think what I've got around the house is a Granny and a Gala, and this is probably, this looks a little bad, but we'll just cut that out. It's probably Yellow Delicious. So we'll just kind of make a mixture of that, a mélange or a mescla. And what I'm going to do with this is sprinkle some of the flour in it to cause it to thicken. And this is apple, so we need some sugar and cinnamon in there. And then I'll toss that and I'll line it on here, and then I'll make another little mixture depending on how much more I think I need. Alright, so now I have all the apples with the flour and the cinnamon sugar mixture in here, and I've got an ample amount of them. I'm telling you, take a look at this. I made a nice long oblong. So what I'm going to do to put this together, you know, I don't have any particular amounts to tell you because it totally depends on how much you have left. If you only have a small amount, you can make, you know, maybe half an apple or a whole apple in it. Depends on the size of your apples. It's all, you got to be a cook who can make these distinctions as time goes on with your things. Just play with it. It's fun. Okay, so I'm going to put the milk on here now to be an adhesive. And I'm going to pull this over, and I'm probably going to have to stretch it quite a bit. Stop. Stop. So I had my husband move to this side of the table. He's home again, so we're victimizing him to help film, and he's loving it. So I'm pushing this over, and I have to keep pushing the apples back in, and then I'll push this down, form it down there, Okay, I could do with this a whole bunch of ways. I could use a fork, which kind of makes it neat. In fact, I might do that, I don't know. And over here also, you can't see it, but just kind of putting those together, and they stay together because of the milk, okay? So I suppose I could do the same old, and maybe that's what I should do, is just do the pie crust thingy here. So I think I'll do that on part of it. Just do my little finger thing with the thumb and index, and then push it in with the index. Do that here. I don't know what you can see, my hand's probably largely in the way. But you can also just take a fork, you know, and put the two crusts together. That's kind of a neat way to do it too. And you know, I have this problem, I really like crust, so I will eat that. And some people will throw it away, they just don't know what's good. Okay, darn it, I meant to put some butter in there. Well, I will get my butter in there. It just won't be this instant, okay? So we're going to take the pastry brush and put milk. You know what, I always use whole milk, and that's all we drink around here is whole milk. That's all we've ever drank, except when my brother-in-law had cows, and we had whole milk with a little bit more cream in it. But you know, I make quiche with this pie crust too, and my one daughter-in-law says, well, why doesn't my quiche turn out like yours? Come to find out, she was using a fat-free milk. I don't know if it was 2% or whatever it was, but that's the thing, you've got to use, I mean, most of your quiche recipes will call for not just whole milk, but cream. You know, half and half is a very good thing to use. So when you're cooking and you're making something that's really good to eat, and especially a dessert, don't be messing around getting non-fat-free stuff, no sugar stuff. That's just not right. Okay, so another thing we do here with this, not the cinnamon sugar on the outside, that would make it too brown, but I always, when I make a double crust, I always put the milk on and then sprinkle on granulated sugar. And that's another reason I like the crust, because it's so sweet. Of course, you know, the French also have recipes for putting sugar in their pastry for this kind of thing. But I don't really do that, at least I haven't yet, doesn't mean I won't. So I have my sugar on the outside because that's the way Mama did it, you know? Okay, so we're going to make some holes in here. You have to have some breathing holes. Sometimes I don't have to make the holes because the apples will tear the holes open. And since I was negligent on the butter issue, I will stick some butter in these holes. Why do I do that? I don't know. One time I was told it was because it would help it not to overflow. Is it going to go in there? Let's use the fork. It's not the best idea. I should have dotted that on earlier. But we'll still get a little butter. And anyhow, it tastes good with a little butter in it. Makes a little bit more of a syrup, I suppose. Okay. Now's the hard part. I've got a couple spatulas under this. I never make this big a one, but I did today. I just wanted to. So that moved pretty good. You can see what I had for the spatulas. And now I'm going to put it in the oven. And normally I would bake it at 400, just like a regular pie, and for 15 minutes, and then 375 until it's done, until it's bubbling, which could be 40 minutes. Today we've got the oven up really high. I told my husband we've got places to go and people to see, and we're going to put this turnover in there at about 400 degrees because the French cook everything at 400. So we will just try that today because we got to get out of here, and then we'll eat it when we get home. So that's what it looks like going into the oven. Show you what I do with these. You know, I make enough that I'm going to have them around for a while. So here I have my one deep dish. Put a little piece of wax paper on it. Stick the other one on top of it very carefully, and just continue to do that until I have them all stuck together. And then I will put them in some kind of a bag. This is a jumbo. I think 3 of them will go in there. And put them in the freezer. And get them out one by one as I want to use them later. So that's how I preserve them in the freezer. Okay. So here we have it. You can see the steam rolling out of it as Rod showed it to you. And that 400 degrees, the French use really worked out well. I mean, this thing is done in I don't know, 20 minutes. The sugar around the edge is burned a little bit, but anyhow, the apples are done, the crust is done. You can see how nice and golden it gets with the milk and sugar. And Rod's talking about auto mode, but I don't know if we've got any ice cream. But we do have whipped cream because we still have a couple pieces of pumpkin pie to eat for lunch quick before we go off to Lima to see Grandma Vera and Jennifer and her family for our Christmas gathering with them. And so it is bon appetit, enjoy your food, and we'll see you later.